Good morning, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Ukraine Zelensky rules out ceding Donbas region in any deal with Russia, says US summit in Alaska a personal victory for Putin. Third India-Singapore ministerial roundtable to convene in New Delhi today, expected to finalize key MOUs, focus on trade, energy and technology. Japan's Nikkei rises above 43,000 for the first time, marking a fresh all-time high, extending the rally into a sixth straight session. Extreme heat wave and wildfires continue to scorch parts of Europe. Millions are facing record heat. And Olympic champion Sweden's Armand Duplantis stuns global sports fraternity again, breaks his own pole vault world record for the 13th time. As presidents of United States and Russia are meeting in Alaska on Friday, concerns are emerging over Ukraine being left out, where a possible deal may emerge to end the conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called this summit a personal victory for Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Zelensky has expressed concern that Russia will put forward hardline demands and that Trump will hammer out a deal that will demand Ukraine cede swaths of territory. But Zelensky seems to be standing his ground for now. He's also ruled out withdrawing troops from Ukraine's eastern Donbas region as part of the peace deal. The Donbas encompasses the eastern Ukrainian regions of Lugansk and Donetsk, both of which Russia claims as its own and has sought to control since 2022. Zelensky also said he had received a signal from US envoy Steve Witkoff that Russia might agree to a ceasefire without elaborating. He said Friday's summit would effectively postpone new US sanctions on Russia, sanctions that Trump had promised to impose if Putin refused to halt this conflict.
То з Україною. Також сьогодні була доповідь розвідки і військового командування про те, на що розраховує Путін і до чого реально готується. Зокрема, це і приготування воєнні. Він точно не готується до припинення вогню і війни. Путін налаштований тільки на те, щоб подати зустріч з Америкою як свою особисту перемогу. І далі продовжувати діяти так, як і раніше. Тиснути на Україну так, як і раніше.
Meanwhile, in the first US-Russia summit since 2021, Putin and Trump will meet on Friday at Almendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. To prepare for the summit, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held a call with US counterpart Marco Rubio, who told a US radio show earlier that Trump did not regard the meeting as a concession to Russia. The White House, meanwhile, confirmed that meeting came about after Putin requested it, though Trump is open to a trilateral meeting with Putin and Zelensky later. Meanwhile, European leaders will hold online talks with US President Donald Trump on Wednesday ahead of Trump-Putin talks over Ukraine. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has invited Ukraine's President Zelensky, French, British and other European leaders and heads of EU and NATO will also attend the talks on Wednesday afternoon. Trump-Putin meeting on Friday is so far planned to go ahead without Zelensky. The SAS fueled fears Kiev could be forced into painful concessions, including over land. Earlier on Tuesday, EU leaders stressed the inherent right of Ukraine to choose its own destiny, adding that international borders must not be changed by force. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the president wanted to size up Putin directly. Along those lines, Trump administration tempered expectation for major progress towards a ceasefire, calling the summit a listening exercise.
think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
And DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us live with more. Akshay, a couple of days to go for the high-stakes meeting in Alaska. But the posturing over Ukraine's territorial sovereignty suggests there will not be any easy outcomes or solutions.
Well, absolutely, Shubhendu. As far as problems are concerned, as far as a possibility of a ceasefire are immense. As far as Russia is concerned, it has waged a bloody campaign as far as the special military operation is concerned since it has started. And the objectives have been pretty clear. So it started from the issue of NATO, and it has now evolved to a situation where Russia also is calling for the regions that that have the majority of Russian-speaking population. For example, Crimea, that was annexed by Russia earlier. Then there is Donetsk, Donbass, Luhansk, Zaporozhye as well, where the sort of a stalemate has prevailed over the last several months, especially the conflict is concerned. So Russia has been repeatedly calling for these regions to be separated from Ukraine because Russia claims that the population there does not want to be with Ukraine and they see their destiny with Russia. However, that claim has been disputed not only by Ukraine but by European leaders as well. From what all that we have heard as of now, Donald Trump has earlier mentioned that there may be a territory swap that may be necessary for a ceasefire to be implemented. However, it seems highly unlikely that in any such condition Ukraine is going to agree to a peace deal, especially if it requires official exchange of territory, because that is going to impact Zelensky personally at domestic level, at its domestic politics, as well as the fate of Ukraine too. So it's highly unlikely that Ukraine in any condition is going to agree to any kind of land swap that as it has been suggested by Trump. So that may be another sticking point of another stalemate to continue as far as Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned. Okay. However, from the recent statements also, but just last one point here, Shubhendu, that Donald Trump has just a few hours back made a statement that when he was asked the question whether there will be involvement of Zelensky, Trump has said that there have been several meetings with Zelensky that have resulted into no positive outcome as far as ending the conflict is concerned. So US seems quite adamant on ending the conflict one way or another.
Right. And Akshay, what is the latest that you are learning from the battleground? Russian forces are reported to be making advancements as far as eastern Ukraine is concerned.
Well, there is an imbalance of power, clearly. Russia is a much larger country, much larger military, and unless Ukraine gets support directly from the European Union countries, as well as the US, it's highly unlikely that they will be able to stop any kind of advancements by the Russian forces. And perhaps this may also be a pressure tactic by Kremlin that if they can prove it to the world that they have the capability and capacity to move further in Ukraine with the use of force, there is highly unlikely that Ukraine on its own will be able to do anything to stop it, and that may pressurize the Ukrainian government to come to the sitting to dialogue table as well. And agree to some kind of land swaps. So that seems to be the case. However, the situation for the Ukrainian forces remain dangerous, especially with the advancement of the Russian forces in the eastern part, or rather in the eastern part of Ukraine and the western parts of Russia. So situation seems to be evolving on the ground as well, but it's being seen by the European countries, European Union as well, as a pressure tactic, which the European Union have responded by saying that they will not agree to any kind of agreement which Ukraine say in it, or Kiev's agreement to it. So they seems to be sticking with the Ukrainian side, however, US has showed a sort of a roller coaster when it comes to decision making. Initially, the kind of argument we saw in the Oval Office between Zelensky and Trump alongside JD Vance, and then there was a complete U-turn with Trump stating that Putin is not agreeing to a ceasefire, and that is the reason why sanctions must be implemented not only on Russia but the countries that are importing Russian goods as well. So that was another pressure tactic, and now again a U-turn stating that Ukraine may have to agree to a land swap agreement, but it is unclear that what kind of land will Russia be giving to Ukraine, because Ukraine has made no such claims to it as of now. So the situation seems to be further complicated by the US involvement at this point, but all eyes will be on the meeting between Trump and Putin, and if they can come to an agreement that has an approval of Kiev as well, that will be required for a permanent peace in the region.
Akshay, thank you for those inputs. Moving on, Russian President Vladimir Putin held a phone call with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, updated him on the planned talks Putin will hold with US President Donald Trump in Alaska this week. Kim and Putin discussed the development in the country's ties under a strategic partnership agreement signed last year, confirming their will to strengthen cooperation in the future. Putin expressed appreciation for North Korea's help in liberating the Kursk region in western Russia in the conflict against Ukraine. The White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, meanwhile, on Friday, said Alaska summit between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Putin is a listening exercise for the president.
I think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully...
Mining in Congo.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Moving on to West Asia. A Hamas delegation arrived in Cairo on Tuesday for talks in a possible agreement with Israel as Egypt presented the terror group with new proposal for a comprehensive deal. Egypt, along with Qatar and the United States, has been trying to help Israel and Hamas reach peace. Despite efforts, no breakthrough has happened since short-term truce earlier this year. The Hamas team, led by chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya, were invited by Egypt to discuss the latest developments in ceasefire talks and prisoner exchanges. Cairo meetings will focus on ending hostilities and releasing prisoners. The discussions include a potential 60-day truce followed by longer negotiations. They also aim to exchange all Israeli captives, both alive and deceased, in one deal. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to expand military control over Gaza is expected to be launched in October. The military chief of the staff has warned it could endanger surviving hostages and prove a death trap for Israeli soldiers. It has also raised fears of further displacement and hardship among the Palestinians in the Gaza City region. Foreign ministers of 24 countries, including Britain, Canada, Australia, France and Japan, said on Tuesday the humanitarian crisis in Gaza had reached unimaginable levels and urged Israel to allow unrestricted aid into the enclave. Israel denies responsibility for hunger in Gaza, accusing Hamas of stealing aid. It says it has taken steps to increase deliveries, including pausing fighting for parts of the day in some areas and announcing protective routes for the aid convoys. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said on Wednesday that Netanyahu had lost the plot as the country weighs up whether to recognize a Palestinian state. Luxon told reporters that lack of humanitarian assistance, the forceful displacement of people and the annexation of Gaza were utterly appalling and that Netanyahu had gone way too far. Luxon said earlier this week New Zealand was considering whether to recognize Palestinian state. Close ally Australia on Monday joined Canada, the UK and France in announcing it would do so at a UN conference in September. The US has announced criminal charges against Haitian gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Shazier and North Carolina man Brazil Richardson for conspiring to violate American sanctions. The indictment alleges that Shazier and Richardson solicited funds from the Haitian diaspora in the US to support Shazier's gang activities in Haiti, including paying salaries and purchasing firearms. Shazier's gang is accused of massacres, rapes, kidnapping, extortion and arson. Leads the G9 family and allies gang alliance, which controls much of Port-au-Prince. Meanwhile, Richardson is a naturalized US citizen who grew up in Haiti, resides in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Shazier could face extradition to the US with a $5 million reward offered for information leading to his arrest. Armenia and the United States started a joint peacekeeping exercise in Yerevan as part of the ongoing training for international missions on Tuesday. The drills, named Eagle Partner 2025, will run until August 20th and are taking place for the third year in a row. The training will focus on preparing and carrying out peacekeeping missions with special attention to medical evacuation procedures. The drill kicked off days after US President Trump oversaw a peace treaty signing between Yerevan and its long-date rival, Azerbaijan, in Washington, D.C. In the United States, members of the National Guard arrived at D.C. Armory on Tuesday, a day after President Donald Trump announced he was deploying 800 National Guard troops to Washington and temporarily taking over the city's police department. In addition, Trump will send about 500 federal law enforcement agents to supplement the city's police force during the 30-day emergency deployment. It is the second time that this summer that the Republican president has deployed troops to a city governed by Democrats. A federal trial began on Monday in San Francisco on whether Trump violated American law by deploying National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June without the approval of California Governor Gavin Newsom. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser sought to put a positive spin on the deployment, saying she wanted to use the extra personnel to drive down crime, despite earlier calling the move unsettling and unprecedented. A U.S. judge on Tuesday ordered President Trump's administration to restore a part of the federal grant funding that it recently suspended for University of California. Los Angeles U.S. District Judge Rita Lynn in San Francisco ruled that grant funding suspensions violated an earlier June preliminary injunction where she ordered the National Science Foundation to restore dozens of grants that it had terminated at the University of California. The university said last week the government froze $584 million in funding. The government alleges universities, including UCLA, allowed anti-Semitism during protests. Bolivian presidential candidate Doria Medina marched through the main streets of La Paz, accompanied by a large crowd of supporters in a demonstration that marked the final day of his campaign on Tuesday. During this event, Doria Medina expressed confidence that he would secure victory in the presidential elections. According to polls published on Sunday, the candidate is currently leading in electoral preference. In his closing remarks, the candidate outlined some of his key promises for the first 100 days in office, including the return of US dollars to Bolivian market and the normalization of fuel supply. two issues that have raised public concern. In other news, Mexico sent more than 24 suspected cartel members to US on Tuesday amid rising pressure from President Trump on Mexico to dismantle the country's powerful drug organizations. Mexico's Attorney General's office and Security Ministry said in a joint statement that authorities shipped 26 prisoners wanted in the US for ties to drug trafficking groups. Mexico said US Department of Justice had requested their extradition and that it would not seek the death penalty for the accused cartel members. The transfer is the second of its kind this year. In February, Mexican authorities sent 29 alleged cartel leaders to the US. In a statement, the US Embassy said among those extradited were key figures in the Jalisco New Generation cartel and the Sinaloa cartel, which are Mexico's two dominant organized crime groups. China's military said that it monitored and drove away the US destroyer USS Higgins in the waters of disputed Scarborough Shoal in South China Sea. The destroyer had entered the waters without the approval of the Chinese government on Wednesday. The military Southern Theater Command said in a statement, the US Indo-Pacific Command and its embassy in Beijing did not immediately respond to requests for comment. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, despite overlapping claims by Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Vietnam. A Guatemalan court on Tuesday sentenced 6 people to prison terms ranging from 6 to 25 years for their roles in 2017 fire that killed 41 girls at a state-run youth shelter. The defendants, 2 former police officers, 4 former child protection officials, were convicted of homicide, mistreatment of minors, abuse of authority, and breach of duty. Some relatives criticized the sentences as too lenient. Judge Ingrid Cefantes ordered an investigation into former President Jimmy Morales and declined to rule on charges against the president, former children's prosecutor, due to lack of jurisdiction. In 2017, a fire at a safe home in Guatemala City killed 41 girls and severely injuring 15 others. South Korea's former First Lady Kim Kyun-hee has been arrested after a court late on Tuesday issued a warrant to arrest her following accusations of graft that she denies. Kim is South Korea's only former First Lady to be arrested, joining her husband, ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol. The court issued the warrant for Kim's detention for special prosecutor appointed in early June, said in a brief message. The charges against her, punishable by years in prison, range from stock fraud to bribery and illegal influence peddling that have implicated business owners, religious figures, and a political power broker. Kim is also accused of receiving 2 Chanel bags, together valued at 20 million won, and a diamond necklace from a religious group as a bribe in return for influence favorable to the business interests. Kim's lawyers have previously denied the accusations against her and dismissed as groundless speculation news reports about some of the gifts she allegedly received. The United States on Tuesday announced sanctions against an armed group aligned with Congo's military, as well as a Congolese mining company and 2 Hong Kong-based exporters over armed violence and the sale of critical minerals. The measures are the latest taken by the administration of the Trump presidency to try to bring peace to eastern Congo, spurring violence that has killed thousands of people. Qatar is hosting direct talks between Congo and M23, while Washington is hosting talks between Congo and Rwanda. A train possibly carrying hazardous material was derailed in Texas on Tuesday. Palo Pinto Fire Department is working to contain a fire where approximately 35 Union Pacific cars derailed. The train belonged to the US's largest freight railroad, Union Pacific. The railroad said additional crew were in transit, though there are no reports of injury and an incident investigation was underway. Trump's trade tariffs continue to dominate geopolitics and geoeconomics. In the latest, US and China have extended tariff truce by 90 days, staving off the surge in duties. Experts say US Donald Trump's trade war with China would likely see global businesses reshore back to the Asian giant. Meanwhile, adverse impact of Trump's tariffs are beginning to be visible on the American economy.
The United States has extended the tariff truce with China by another 90 days. US President Donald Trump signed an executive order late on Monday, delaying the imposition of higher tariffs on Chinese goods until November 10th. The order was signed hours before the 90-day halt of steeper levies between Washington and Beijing was due to expire. Experts say US President Donald Trump's trade war with China would likely see global businesses reshore back to the Asian giant, as Washington and Beijing have extended the tariff truce for another 90 days.
Generally, when you're looking at reshoring, ideally you're going to be closer to where your target customer market is. But if you're looking at it purely from a cost standpoint, looking at it from the ability to create new products rapidly at a cheaper cost, then the appeal of China is going to start looking stronger over time in a world where every country is facing higher and higher tariffs and greater uncertainty.
Meanwhile, economists are beginning to detect adverse impact of the tariffs on US economy itself. Growth has slowed to an annualized 1.8% in Q2, far below the 3 to 4% Trump had promised. Inflation is rising again, with core consumer price index up 3.6% year on year. Job creation has dropped below expectations for the second straight month. Manufacturing output fell 0.4% in June. US trade deficit widened in July to $71.2 billion. Consumer sentiment, according to the University of Michigan survey, has slipped to its lowest level in 18 months. In other US tariff-related developments, the European Union is unable to clearly say when a joint statement on tariffs with the United States will be ready. The Union is also unclear when it expects the White House to issue an executive order on European car import duties. South Africa will submit a revised offer for a trade deal to Washington in an effort to lower the 30% tariff rate US President Donald Trump imposed on exports to America last week. The government of Africa's biggest economy has tried for months to negotiate a trade deal with the US but failed to meet Trump's deadline.
Other significant requests from the US was that South Africa consider reducing tariffs as a way to address the deficit and tariff disparity with the European Union due to the SADC-EU Economic Partnership Agreement. South Africa continues consultations with industry in this regard, in consultation with other members of the Southern Africa Customs Union. Will identify specific lines to respond to this request.
Earlier, United States imposed a tariff of 50% on Indian imports. India and Brazil face some of the highest tariffs at the moment. Trump announced the additional punitive tariff, citing New Delhi's continued imports of Russian oil, a move that sharply escalated trade tensions between the two nations. India has prioritized its national interest and maintained that the steep tariffs are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. Shubhendu Ghosh's report, DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Parliament passes new income tax bill, key sports reforms ahead of 5-day break. Typhoon Podul intensifies as it nears Taiwan. Pilgrimage turns to tragedy after a vehicle carrying devotees met with an accident in Rajasthan.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth unadulterated and pure of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Ukraine Zelensky rules out ceding Donbas region in any deal with Russia, says US summit in Alaska a personal victory for Putin. Third India-Singapore ministerial roundtable to convene in New Delhi today, expected to finalize key MOUs, focus on trade, energy and technology. Extreme heat wave and wildfires continue to scorch parts of Europe, millions facing record heat. The third round of India-Singapore ministerial roundtable will be held in New Delhi on Wednesday. Indian ministers who will participate in the third ISMR are Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and other union ministers along with their Singaporean counterparts. Envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, ISMR is a unique mechanism for setting a new agenda for India-Singapore cooperation. Its inaugural meeting was held in New Delhi in September 2022. Second meeting was held in Singapore in August of 2024. India and Singapore share a comprehensive strategic partnership. The third round of ISMR will identify avenues to further broaden and deepen bilateral ties. Australian Army Chief Lieutenant General Simon Stewart is on an official visit to India. During his two-day visit to Pune on Wednesday and Thursday, he will interact with Lieutenant General Dheeraj Seth, General Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Southern Command, and visit the National Defence Academy, Khadakwasla. He is also scheduled to address the cadets on leadership, joint training and cooperation. He will participate in other defence cooperation engagements. This high-level visit reaffirms the strong and growing India-Australia defence partnership, underscores the shared commitment of both the nations towards a stable, secure and rules-based Indo-Pacific region. India's Union Minister of State for Defence, Sanjay Seth, held a bilateral meeting with his Nigerian counterpart, Dr. Bello Muhammad Matawale, in New Delhi on Tuesday. The two ministers discussed the way forward to further advance growing bilateral defence cooperation and military engagements across diverse domains. During the meeting, Union Minister of State for Defence highlighted the capability of the Indian defence industry to produce high-quality defence equipment. He assured full support to meet the requirements of the Nigerian side. Meanwhile, Dr. Matawale invited the Indian delegation to visit the defence industry in Nigeria to explore the possibility of investment in the sector. Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a telephone call on Tuesday from the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. President Mirziyoyev conveyed his warm greetings and felicitations to Prime Minister Modi and people of India on the upcoming 79th Independence Day of the country. The two leaders reviewed progress in several key areas of bilateral cooperation, including trade, connectivity, health, technology and people-to-people ties. The leaders also exchanged views on regional and global developments of mutual interest and reiterated their commitment to further strengthen age-old ties between India and Central Asia. Prime Minister Modi delivered a video message during the 18th International Olympiad on Astronomy and Astrophysics being held in Mumbai. In his message, Prime Minister said that India is deeply committed to nurturing scientific curiosity and empowering young minds. The 10-day event will witness participation of nearly 300 high school students from a record 64 countries in what stands as the largest edition of the Olympiad till date.
The 18th International Olympiad on Astronomy and Astrophysics (IOAA) officially kick-started on Tuesday in Mumbai. Nearly 300 high school students from a record 64 countries are participating in the 10 days event, what stands as the largest edition of the Olympiad to date. A special message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted India's rich legacy in space sciences and encouraged the participants to pursue their cosmic curiosity with creativity and collaborative spirit.
India proudly contributes to global mega science projects. India is deeply committed to nurturing scientific curiosity and empowering young minds. India is a leading country in the participation of women in STEM domains. Under various initiatives, billions of dollars are being invested in the research ecosystem.
This year's Olympiad is hosted by India with the theme Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam because India believes the world is one family. Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Ajay Sood, said such events will help Bharat become Viksit.
India has made valuable contribution to this field from the very early days with big names like Aryabhatta, Varahamitra Mihra and others in ancient times to Meghnad Saha and several others in more modern times. With important projects like we heard GMRT, Chandrayaan 3, Astrosat, Aditya L1 mission, which is just launched and a lot of beautiful data has come out. India has also emerged on the international scene in terms of beautiful astronomy facilities. Astronomy and astrophysics opens doors which really are opening to advanced and engineering technologies as well. We are making sure that for India, the science and technology is the way forward for really becoming a Viksit Bharat.
This year's event marks a milestone in IOAA's history with several countries from the global south participating for the first time, including Algeria, Bolivia, Qatar and Sri Lanka, among others. Wars and conflicts have not dampened enthusiasm, with students from affected nations like Ukraine, Palestine and Ghana joining in a powerful testament to the universal appeal of science. Participants will be tested across multiple fronts. Theoretical, observational and data analysis challenges form the core competition framework. Additionally, the event features an innovative team round to promote cross-border collaboration. Organized by the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, HBCSE, part of the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, TIFR, with backing from the Prime Minister's Office and the Department of Atomic Energy, IOAA, 2025 embodies India's commitment to global scientific outreach. The event is expected to give astronomy education in India a much-needed boost, particularly through educational resources now being developed by the new IAU Office of Astronomy Education in India. Shama Mishra's report, DD India.
Let's turn to Parliament. Parliament on Tuesday passed a new income tax bill to replace the 6-decades-old Income Tax Act 1961 before it took a 5-day break and will reconvene on August 18th. The Rajya Sabha returned the bill to Lok Sabha with a voice vote after its swift passage in the lower house last Monday within just 3 minutes amid opposition protest. This new Income Tax Bill 2025 aims to simplify and modernize India's income tax framework without altering the existing tax rates, creating a more straightforward and taxpayer-friendly law set to come into force on 1st April 2026. The landmark National Sports Governance Bill was also passed, which will transform India's sporting landscape and make decision-making athlete-centric. The National Anti-Doping Amendment Bill, which reinforces NADA's autonomy as required by the World Anti-Doping Agency, was also passed by the Parliament. The two bills now await the President's assent to be notified as acts. During the discussion, Minister Mansukh Mandavia said that since sports is a public movement, its three major stakeholders, athletes, federations and government, needed to have mutual coordination and transparency to convert talent of the nation's sportspersons into medals.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कि हमें आने वाले 10 साल में देश को स्पोर्ट्स सेक्टर में दुनिया में 1 से 10 क्रम में लाना है। हमें जब देश आज़ादी का शताब्दी वर्ष मनाता हो, यानी कि देश आज़ादी का 100 वर्ष मनाए, हमें विकसित भारत बनना है। विकसित भारत केवल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट को मोदी जी ने नहीं कहा है। मोदी जी ने कहा है कि देश सर्वांगीण क्षेत्र में उन्नति करे। स्पोर्ट्स सेक्टर में भी हम दुनिया में 1 से 5 नंबर के मेडल टैली में आना चाहते हैं। उसके लिए स्पोर्ट्स सेक्टर में गुड गवर्नेंस ये बहुत आवश्यक है।
Sports fraternity reacted to the new sports bill. Let's listen in.
The passing of the National Sports Bill is a big victory for all of us athletes. It will strengthen our dream and brighten the future of sports. We sincerely thank the government for this historic step.
This act greatly benefit Indian sport in two major areas. One, through forming National Sports Board, which will have the authority to grant or cancel registration or recognition of a organization, sports organization. This board will also have the authority to audit, to ensure if the body is not functioning properly, to constitute ad hoc committees, also to see that the sports must have ethics and safe sports policy, especially the athlete who are below 18, athlete who are the girls, the women. So this will ensure that the sports board will be playing a major role through this act.
In line with India's Independence Day 2025 celebrations, Har Ghar Tiranga campaign saw enthusiastic participation across the country. Union Home Minister Amit Shah hoisted the national flag at his residence in Delhi under Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. Chief Minister of Northern State of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, also attended Tiranga Yatra that started from his residence in Lucknow. Deputy Chief Minister Vijesh Pathak and Keshav Maurya were also present at the event. In Prayagraj too, a similar Tiranga Yatra was organized. During the march, participants, including the general public, raised slogans while dancing to patriotic songs and carrying pictures of martyrs. Gujarat's Surat city launched Har Ghar Tiranga, Har Ghar Swachhata program. Preparations are in full swing ahead of Independence Day, with flags being handed out throughout Surat's wards, streets and commercial areas, reaching both local residents and tourists in the city. In Ujjain, Tiranga Yatra was organized by the police on Tuesday. The Yatra passed through major sites in the city. At least 10 devotees died. Many were injured on Wednesday after a collision between passenger pickup vehicle and a trailer truck on the Jaipur-Bandikoi Express. The tragedy happened near Bapi in Dausa city of Rajasthan. The devotees were coming from Khatu Sham temple in Sikar city when the accident occurred. Over 10 devotees are said to have sustained injuries in Dausa accident between a passenger pickup vehicle and a trailer truck. More than 20 devotees were sitting in the pickup van. All the injured have been taken to Dausa to SMS hospital in Jaipur. Some weather news now. Wildfires have wreaked havoc as brutal heatwave continues to grip across Europe and Canada. More in this report. Wildfires raged in parts of Europe as millions across the continent face the harsh new reality of record-breaking summer temperatures. In southern Europe, 3 men lost their lives and thousands were forced to evacuate their homes as wildfires intensified. Heat alerts were issued in Italy, France, Spain, Portugal and the Balkans, with temperatures expected to exceed 40 degrees Celsius. As per the Weather Agency of France, temperatures around 41 degrees Celsius will prevail in the areas under highest alert for heat on Wednesday. Meanwhile, a wildfire in Spain's Chandresia de Queixia continued to burn, destroying nearly 3,500 hectares. In Spain, the Met Department stated that temperatures were set to reach 44 degrees Celsius in some regions. Firefighters in southern Albanian town of Delvina are also battling wildfires that have encircled the city. Extra firefighters and army personnel joined efforts to control the blaze, prompting precautionary evacuations. In Greece, a wildfire raged across hills close to a residential area on the island of Zakynthos. In Turkey, firefighters battle to contain a raging blaze as thick clouds of smoke and flames engulfed a wooded area in the western province of Izmir. Elsewhere, crew managed to contain several wildfires burning across the country. Montenegro's beach town of Bilarica also faced a wildfire, with thick smoke rising above the town. Authorities across Europe have issued various heat warnings as climate change intensifies the severity of wildfires. In another continent, firefighters battled a wildfire on the outskirts of Halifax, Nova Scotia, as heatwave grips the nation in Canada, with some local businesses evacuated. Kajal's report for DD India. Thousands of people have been sheltered and fishermen have secured their boats across storm-battered southern Taiwan on Wednesday as Typhoon Podol has intensified its approach to the island. A large swath of southern and eastern Taiwan have been shut down. Many ferry services have been suspended and businesses and schools across the south are closed. More than 31,500 soldiers were ready to assist in typhoon preparations as well as rescue and relief efforts. The typhoon is packing wind speeds of 155 kilometers per hour at its center and it's strengthening. More than 5,500 people have been evacuated from their homes as the typhoon threatens to pound central and southern regions still recovering from storms last month. The Central Weather Administration has expected that mountainous areas of Kaohsiung City and neighboring Pyeongtaong County and Hualien and Taitung counties could see torrential rains. The areas could receive a cumulative 400 to 600 millimeters of rain from Tuesday to Thursday. Meanwhile, hundreds of flights were cancelled in Taiwan ahead of the arrival of Typhoon Podol, as authorities take measures to brace for impact. The departure hall at the Taipei Songshan Airport was nearly empty as all domestic flights were cancelled on Wednesday, 252 in total, while 129 international ones were axed as well. Japan's Nikkei rose above 43,000 points for the first time on Wednesday, tracking US stocks which marred a new highs after soft inflation data. In early trade, Nikkei 225 index was at 43,062.55, up about 0.81%, having already hit a new intraday record high of 42,999 the previous day. Both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq finished at fresh records on Tuesday after US inflation data showed a still subdued impact from US President Donald Trump's tariffs. Investors were also cheered by Trump extending by 90 days a trade truce with China. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the action from sports. Olympic champion Sweden's Armand Mondos Duplantis stunned the world once again after he broke his own world record for the 13th time on Tuesday. Duplantis bettered his pole vault world record by a centimetre, clearing 6.29 metres at the athletics meet in Budapest. The double Olympic gold medalist soared over the bar at the second attempt to improve on his 6.28 metres from Stockholm in June. It was the 25-year-old's third record of 2025, having also cleared a 6.25 metres in Clermont-Ferrand in February. Indian wushu player Namrata Batra scripted history on Tuesday. Namrata became India's first ever wushu medalist at the World Games in Chengdu, China. She clinched silver in the women's 52 kg category, going down to her Chinese opponents in the finals. Earlier, Namrata defeated Philippines' Krizan Faith Collado 2-0 in the semi-finals to assure India of its first ever World Games medal in the sport of wushu. World Organ Donation Day, observed annually on August 13th, aims to raise awareness about the importance of organ donation to encourage individuals to pledge to donate their organs after death. Here's more.
Organ donation has the power to save lives and significantly improve the quality of life for those suffering from organ failure. In this situation, Tamil Nadu stands out as the leading state in organ donation, as highlighted in this news bulletin. Tamil Nadu has been a pioneer in implementing a deceased organ transplant program in India. This year, India once again honored Tamil Nadu with the Best State Award in organ donation. The state recorded 268 brain dead donors, the highest number in a single calendar year from any state in the country. From these donors, 1,500 organs and tissues were retrieved and successfully transplanted to patients in need. The state's success is attributed to the establishment of the Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu, which manages the entire organ donation and transplantation process. Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu ensures transparency, efficiency, and strict adherence to ethical guidelines. In recognition of this effort, the central government presented the Best State in Organ Donation Award to Tamil Nadu in a ceremony held in Delhi. The award was received by Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan, Member Secretary of the Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu, from Union Health Minister J.P. Nadda. Speaking on the occasion, Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan elaborated on how this achievement was made possible and detailed the procedures followed by the Tamil Nadu government for organ donation.
To put it in one sentence, it is a beautiful example for the importance of a cohesive and coordinated and focused strategy wherein all the stakeholders join hands and move together towards achieving the goal. Who were the stakeholders? A strong political dispensation, the government, the bureaucracy, the technocrats, meaning the healthcare providers, the visual and print media, and most importantly, the public. All the 5 domains join hands and move together in achieving this. There have been some newer initiatives or best practices which were introduced during the past couple of years. Each one of them proved to be of great benefit. The first thing is that conducting a honor walk for the deceased donor after the organs are retrieved, before the mortal remains get into the ambulance. A huge gathering within the hospital campus, offering floral tributes. This really gave a lot of solace for the family. And subsequently, the government of Tamil Nadu passed an important historic government order based on which the tributes, honors will be accorded to the deceased donor at the residence of the donor before final rites by the district collector or sub-collector or a top-ranking district official not below the rank of RDO.
One person's organ donate has the power to save multiple precious lives we should realize this and come forward to donate organ. We should also create the awareness about this. This is Rajagopalan along with camera person Rahavan for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan this QR code and download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.